So we're excited to be able to give everybody just kind of this update with a moment that has happened this month that was pretty remarkable. And that's that Jude and I got to go on our second ever mission trip to Honduras. And we had some pretty cool life change stories that happened. Jude, do you want to start with some things that happened with you?
Yeah. So we went to a bunch of schools in Honduras. And normally you'd be like, oh, well, it's just a bunch of missionaries talking about Jesus. It's probably not going to be like that much because a lot of the kids there don't even know about Jesus and they probably don't really care either. But actually, when we went there, around like 3/4 of all the kids we taught about Jesus, they got saved. And we even were like, hey, so if you guys don't feel like you're going to keep going to church and like taking more steps with Jesus, then don't raise your hand.
They made sure that they said, don't just raise your hand because your friend's raising their hand. Don't just raise your hand because you just feel like that's what you're supposed to do to make us happy. Like, this is if you're ready to commit your life to Jesus for the very first time. You've never done that before.
And only a couple people put their hands down. So a lot of the people that we ministered to were saved, and that really impacted me because now I know, like, our translator Carla she was saved in that way whenever she was little, like those kids. And
missionaries visited her school and she raised her hand, and she told me the only thing that she wished was that somebody would have come back and followed up. And so when we go, Pastor Fredy is very intentional to go in areas where he knows that there's a church close by that they can walk to.
Yeah.
But Fredy also said there was some talk of like, well, this doesn't really count. They don't really mean it. And I mean, impactful to me was watching Fredy get emotional about his own life change story that happened when he was 7. He's like, I might not have stayed on the right path the whole time, but I meant that I loved Jesus when I was 7, and the missionaries came to my school. And so that was just kind of cool, at least to see. But then you actually got to talk to kids afterwards, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the kids that I was talking to, they were kind of unsure about Jesus and stuff. And at the last school we went to on the last day, I was like, there's probably not going to be a lot that's happening because it's the last day. I didn't think a lot could happen. And I met this group of kids, and one of them spoke English really well because he was in school for it. But one of them, he tried to break up fights and stuff. And he was trying to get stronger because he felt like he didn't want people to, keep fighting and maybe even like get hurt because he couldn't stop them and the teachers didn't get there in time. So we kind of shared to him that like Jesus can help you be stronger and stop those fights. And maybe if you share Jesus to those people, the fights wouldn't even happen in the first place. So later, whenever we were about to leave, I found out that kid got saved. And now he could end up being a Carla or a Fredy. Mm-hmm. And you really never know. Any of those kids that we went to the schools, they could end up being a Carla or a Fredy whenever they're older. Or someone new.
Yeah. And I kind of had my own experience. So the cool thing this year is Jude and I were pretty much separate the whole time. He was helping with children's ministry while I was helping with medical. And we got back from doing something on the very first day. And I was like, well, we have this captive audience. And they can't do anything because they're waiting in line to see medical. So let's go just kind of evangelize to them. So we did that. And the cool thing is we got to walk somebody completely through deliverance and see some enormous spiritual freedom in her life. And the better part about that was that our translator had been feeling led to the deliverance ministry, and I'd given her a book last year about deliverance, and she'd been working through that. And in our conversation right before we got out of the truck to go to the site that we had just gotten to, she was telling me some things, and I was like, you know what? I feel like by the end of this week, you're going to do a deliverance with me. Like, that's going to happen. And little did we know, we got out of the truck and we started a deliverance within the next hour. And it was just kind of a cool moment to watch God, use us to equip somebody thousands of miles away and give her the confidence that she needs to know that she can do this, and that the things that she's been feeling, God's been prompting in her, because we can't be there on the ground all the time, right? And then I think the other thing that was kind of impactful for me was the consistent spiritual attack that came against us, but we were consistently using the tools that we had. We bind this enemy in the name of Jesus. And there was even this woman that was coming up to us, cursing us and yelling at one of our translators who was doing some intake forms in medical. And we just bound her, and she was quiet. And like, it was kind of cool to just see the power of God affect things. And sometimes when you're on the mission field, you make these small, tiny decisions. And so Monday, medical was kind of chaotic, and we needed to get a better system. And so we decide we're going to do an intake paper. And the intake paper, I'm like, hey ladies, do you think we have time to ask the question, do you know Jesus? Would you like to? And so we would ask that question, like, here's your symptoms. We'd find out how old they were, how many kids they had, things like that. But then we would ask the question, do you know Jesus? Yes, no, or would you like to? And that one tiny change that was unplanned but prompted by the Holy Spirit led to so many people accepting Christ. And it also led to a girl who was on the team who spoke Spanish being able to see how vital she was in the kingdom of God and gain a confidence as this like warrior that God created her to be. And so for me, it wasn't even how many people were experiencing life change, but it was watching God change the team and change their hearts and let them really fully walk into something that they didn't think that they could walk into. I don't know, that was probably the more impactful pieces for me. And so I think collectively we realized that this is a passion of ours and something we want to continue to do.
Honestly, the thing that I feel like impacted me the most, near the end of our trip, or sometime during the middle of it, Pastor Fredy, he talked to us about, he didn't talk to us directly about it first, one of the translators did, and she said, Pastor Fredy's losing his house right now. His wife's at home, his house just got flooded. He doesn't have long before he gets evicted, and he needs to raise $5,000.
No, he had to raise $2,500 by Monday. And so we're flying back on Sunday, won't be back till Sunday night, and he has to have $2,500 Monday. But you don't know all this, Jude, so I'll just say this, but this is the more details of this story is he had to take out a mortgage against his house because his wife had gotten very sick during COVID and he needed medical care for her. And so he borrowed against his house, and the interest was so expensive, and the $2,500 was just interest. And so the crazy thing is, when we got back and I tell our lead pastor about this, he's like, well, how much does he owe? And so I get the number, and it's like $16,000 will be what he needs to pay off this debt. And so the Holy Spirit gives our lead pastor a name, and he says, call that person. So he calls that person, and that person writes a check immediately. We deposit it in our bank and wire the full amount by the end of the day, Monday, which is insane. That's insane. And the crazy thing is, like, I'm listening to Fredy on Sunday before we leave, and he's like, I know you guys send us money as a missionary. If you could just not send me money for the next few months, and could you just help me with this one thing? He was desperate, but also so joyful and so hopeful, and like getting to see his faith and his trust. Like, I know God's going to take care of it. I know he's going to take care of it. And a smile on his face the whole time. And knowing that him and Samuel are completely dependent on the people in these very, very poor areas to sustain them. And sometimes Samuel has to decide, do I eat or do I drive to this church and pastor? And you guys, he decides to pastor. So he has gas to get there. Oftentimes he does that. And so I'm just like, man, sometimes we don't realize how good we have it. And so we know that this is a calling for us and something that we want to continue to do. And if it's something you've listened to this video and you're like, man, I want to be a part of providing clean water to these places, And there's a thing that we notice when we're down there. We're giving out these water filters that are like $40 plus you have to buy the bucket to give them this water filter, and it's kind of time consuming. You got to get the water, you got to pour it in, make a hole, and then you got to hold it up, and it's got to drain down. And I'll try to insert some B-roll here so you guys can kind of see that. But it's time consuming, and what we noticed when we were at the schools is they have this plumbing and the water is coming out of the wall, but it's all bad water and it's full of parasites and they shouldn't be drinking it because it's not filtered at all. And so we're sure that there's got to be a better way to be able to filter this water, and the pipes that are coming out of the wall that the kids are washing their hands with or drinking out of, there's got to be a way to just put something on those pipes at their schools or put something on their sink like we have here in the States, down there in a more rural area where they're lucky if they have a PVC pipe. Some of them don't. And if they just have a well that they're pulling water from, then that is what they would have to do. But if they have some sort of way that the water's getting into their house, then that would be an amazing thing to think about. And so there's all kinds of ways that you can actually impact ministry, whether it's buying a water filter. Maybe you're somebody who's really good at engineering and you're really good at figuring things like that out. Maybe you can post a comment and let us know, hey, give me a call, shoot me an email. I have an idea on how to fix this in these super rural, remote areas. You know what we talked about that we didn't say that I thought was crazy? When we say rural and remote, one of the things you don't realize is that they don't have access to Bibles. I can't believe I almost forgot this. So I was at the store, and I felt one of the ladies had a Bible, and she felt led, and she gives it to somebody, and it's like this whole moment. And so I'm at the store making printer copies, and I feel this prompt, get a Bible. So I get a Bible, and he's like, no, get another Bible. So I get 2 Bibles. And we go to this one school. I'm just holding it and waiting for God's prompting. So I give one Bible to this group of girls, and I said, do any of you have a Bible? And they said, no, but we would love one. And so it was a pink Bible that's in Spanish, and I give it to them, and they're sharing it, right? They're all huddled around sharing it. And then a little while later, there's a woman, and God said, give her the other Bible. And so I give her the other Bible, and she's just all in like this emotional state and just so joyful because she'd been asking God for a Bible, and then here is this Bible that I gave her. And so they don't have access to get these things. And she said, I wish we could have Bibles for everybody. And I was like, well, how many would you need for this school to get Bibles? And she said 90 for the kids that I think would want one. And this was a school that had like 0 to what they called college, but I think their college might have been like high school. But regardless, all these kids are then for the rest of the day, these teenagers or young adults are huddled around just reading this Bible, so excited. And I'm like, man, if you were in most places in the world, they're huddled around a smartphone. They're on social media. They're searching something on the internet. They're at a computer playing a video game. And I don't know about you, Jude, but I didn't see anybody with an electronic device.
Not really, no. Actually, yeah, I didn't see.
Nobody. They don't have that. And so it's just a completely different environment and a completely different ability to be able to do stuff. And so you may think, well, why can't they just? Because there's just nowhere even remotely close. And some of the places that they have to walk through to get to some of these maybe towns or cities are too dangerous. There was this one really old woman that she could barely walk into the room, and we didn't want to send her away. It was so hot, and she was very sick. And so we gave her what we could give her and told her she needs a doctor, but there's no way we're going to let her try to walk home because she could barely walk in. And one of our missionaries takes her to her home, and it's very far away. And he said, I have no idea how she walked this far. I have no idea. And then he gets there, and there's all these teenage young adult men just kind of hanging out and not helping her. And so whenever you don't have the love of Jesus, certain things are just not a priority. They didn't come to greet her. They didn't come to make sure she was okay. They didn't help her into her vehicle. She's on her own. And we live in a place where we have community, and we have this sense of community, but maybe it's because we have Jesus and we've learned to love our brothers and sisters. And so there's so many aspects of ministry that you guys can be praying for. You could be praying that we get the 90 Bibles. You can be praying that we figure out a way to make filtering easier and less expensive. You can be praying for the hundreds of kids that accepted Christ. I mean, we ministered to over 1,000 kids, and 3/4 of them were raising their hand. And so just think about that number for a second. I don't know how many people in the intake forms officially accepted Christ, but I know there was at least 7 or 8 for sure that for the first time accepted Jesus. And many, many, many of them we got to pray for. We were able to give away tons of parasite medicines, Tylenol, just all kinds of advice that they needed. But what we realized is that there's a desperate need for just medical advice and hygiene. And so they've asked me to come back in March and teach the women, and I would love to be able to do that. And so if that's something that you guys want to support, like, hey, look, I want to help support you get there. I want to help support you bringing bras to all these women. I want to help support you bringing hygiene kits to all of these women. These are things that they need. And Jude, I know you have your own passions for the future. You want to share that?
Yeah. So me and Lou kind of connected over the trip. He used to go to our church. He was the old missions pastor before Brandon and Caleb, right? Mm-hmm. And he has a lot of connections, and he runs a nonprofit, which I think I might have the chance to help him with and impact other people too. Also, I could start a business with him, and I could learn from that because he's had multiple experiences, and that's kind of one of my passions. And maybe even the business could be a nonprofit like he has, which could impact people just as much or even more. And yeah, that's just one of my passions, and I feel like maybe even like starting something in Honduras or Africa that could like be life-changing to people.
So you told me you're feeling more of a pull into the mission field in some way, shape, or form. You don't know what that looks like or how it's going to play out, but that's another way that you guys can support, is being available as Jude has these opportunities to come alongside him and support him, not just financially, but in prayer. And so if you're one of those people and you're like, look, I want to help you get to wherever God calls you to go, Jude or Michelle, then let us know. Like, post a comment, and we'll give you details on how you can support and get a tax-free donation to us. But also, maybe you're sitting here thinking, how can I make sure Samuel eats? Because that's what I would be thinking. I have a link that I can send you specifically for that goes directly to him and his family, and they do not take any kind of cuts with that. What?
Sometimes Samuel doesn't eat. You didn't tell him that.
No, I did say that. Like, sometimes he chooses between gas and food. And he'll choose gas because he wants to make sure he's giving spiritual food. He always trusts that God will provide. And he has 2 kids, Samuel Jr., and he was 13. And him and Jude really, really connected. And they feel like they're the next generation of missionaries that are going to go and spread the gospel together. And so there's so much that is happening, and so much directions that God could take us, but we can't do it without people sowing financial seeds into the ministry and people praying that God shows us when to go and where to go and how to do what he's asking us to do and what to bring and what to provide. And so it doesn't matter if we want to provide hygiene. If that's not what the Lord wants us to do, it's not going to bear any fruit. And so that's where we need you guys to come alongside us and pray. And to everybody that did donate to us, we need you to know that when you get to heaven, all of that life change is a part of your seed. And there was a lot of it. We don't even have time to tell you all the little details of all the little stories. But just know the spiritual freedom, the deliverances that happened, the salvations that happened, the conversations one-on-one, more than we even know, because there were so many people that were having their own one-on-one conversations. The kid that was a bully that's not going to be a bully anymore. The kid that accepted Jesus, and then we gave him the whole rest of the bag of candy that we had left because he was one of the last kids on one of the last places. And we said sometimes when you make life-changing decisions, they come with monetary rewards. we gave him the bag of candy, and it was just this moment that led to this whole other conversation. And so there's so many of those things that happen, but we just want to thank you guys for supporting us and for continuing to be there for us. And remember to comment or reach out if you have any questions about further support.
It says, the devil then said to Jesus, all of this with all its power and authority is splendid, mine to give to whomever I wish. This is the one thing and you will have it all, simply bow down to worship me and you will be yours. You will possess everything. Jesus rebuked him and said, Satan, get behind me, for it is written in the scripture, only one is worthy of adoration, and therefore worship only the Lord your God and alone supreme. So that means a lot to me because it reminds me that anytime we're struggling and the enemy has a stronghold in our lives, we can just tell him that he has no right over us, so we can, we have power over him. So it's a pretty good verse to me, and we could probably use that today somehow. Whenever we're feeling down from the enemy because we're working all day, exhausted. But yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Wow, that's great.
That's awesome.
Hello, Pastor Fredy. Can you please tell the Crossroads families what you are doing in the coming months or in the coming year?
Bueno, gracias al Señor por estar
He says,
contigo, Pastor Luis.
thank you to the Lord for us.
Bueno, yo quiero agradecer grandemente a la Iglesia Crossroads.
He wants to thank Crossroads for all the support.
Hemos trabajado por 9 años
We have worked together for 9 years
con un impacto glorioso para nuestro país Honduras.
with a great impact that has been made here in Honduras.
No estoy cansado,
I'm not tired.
no estoy aburrido,
I'm not bored.
me siento con toda la energía
I feel that I have all the energy
para trabajar
to do the works
por 20 años
for
más.
20 years more. ¿Usted le puede decir a la familia de Crossroads qué es lo que usted va a hacer en el futuro, en este año y el próximo año?
¿De inglés? ¿De inglés?
I asked Pastor Fredy if he can explain to us what he has planned for the rest of this year and for next year for his missions.
Por este año
For this year,
estamos terminando ministerio en noviembre
we are going to finish our ministry in November
con una conferencia
With a conference.
para líderes.
for a leadership conference.
El próximo año
The next year,
arrancamos
we're going to start
en marzo
in March
con una conferencia para mujeres a nivel nacional
with the women's conference, a national women's
de
conference.
180 mujeres
The 180 women are going to
con muchas
participate
necesidades
with a lot of needs,
espirituales,
spiritual needs,
físicas,
physical needs,
emocionales,
emotional
y
needs,
necesitamos que Crossroads nos apoye
and we need Crossroads
para
support
impactar de una mejor manera a ellas.
to impact as much as we
En
can.
junio estaremos con evangelismo
In June, we'll be evangelizing
de niños.
with kids.
Queremos impactar por lo menos 10 escuelas.
We want to impact at least 10 schools.
Recordar
Remember
que el niño que levanta su mano
that the child that raises his hand
recibe la bendición del cielo.
receives the blessings of God.
En julio
Thousands of kids
jul-
receive the blessings from God when they commit their lives to Christ.
En julio
En-
estaremos con doctores
In July,
para medicina general
we're going to have medical missions
y con médicos para dientes,
with
dentistas.
dental as well.
Para septiembre tendremos
For
también
September, we will
una
also
conferencia de
have a
líderes
conference, a leadership conference,
y terminamos en noviembre con una conferencia para líderes generales.
and we'll finish again in November with a leadership.
Yo les
another leadership
quiero
conference.
dar gracias
I want to
porque
thank everyone for
a pesar que el enemigo ha querido
that the enemy has tried to bind
dañarnos
us
para quitarnos las buenas emociones,
and take our blessings.
yo estoy listo para trabajar.
I'm ready to work.
Ayúdenme,
Please help.
tenemos muchas necesidades en Honduras.
We have a lot of
Necesito
needs.
su apoyo,
I need your
necesito
support.
su contribución
I need your contributions
para que la obra en Honduras
so the
sea
blessings
un impacto glorioso
in
para
Honduras
nuestro Dios.
can be for God's glory. Pastor, ¿usted le puede decir a nosotros qué es el impacto que nosotros hacemos con ustedes aquí en Honduras?
English.
Pastor, if you can tell me the impact that our support has done or has provided your ministry here in Honduras.
Comenzamos en el 2017 con Crossroads.
We started in 2017 with Crossroads.
Apenas era mi pequeña congregación,
I had a small congregation,
unos 50 hermanos.
about 50 brothers.
Hoy tenemos 8 pastores
Today we have 8 pastors,
y hemos impactado porque ellos son evangelistas,
and we have
maestros.
impacted because
Tenemos
they are
líderes,
teachers,
líderes.
pastors, leaders,
Y hemos impactado no menos de con Crossroads, unos 9,000 niños en toda la...
and totally we have impacted over 9,000 children,
Y las conferencias
and the
nos han
conferences
ayudado
have helped us
a edificar líderes.
to identify leaders
Y eso no sería posible
and train leaders, and it's not possible
sin la ayuda de ustedes.
without the help of Crossroads.
Honduras está creciendo
is growing
en el Evangelio.
in the evangelism.
Están recibiendo la verdad de Cristo.
They're receiving the truth of
Queremos que
Christ.
nos sigas apoyando.
We want you to continue
quiero
to
darte
support
gracias.
us. I want to thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias
And thank you
por tu apoyo
for your
para
support
nuestro ministerio
for
en
our
Honduras.
ministry here in Honduras.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Esperar con afán su venida, oh amados de Cristo el Eterno. Escuchen. No vaguéis como aves peregrinas, ahí volando como usted quiera. Conocer que se acerca el invierno. Yo estaré muy alegre.